I don't know. Here we are. We're live.
Right.
Hey, Scott, this is Jennifer's Spotlight Stream, and I am here today with Scott Gombar, who, as you can tell by his cell phone number there, is cyber. But I'm going to try to pronounce his name, which is Nuage. No, Nuja.
Nuage.
Nuage. There we go.
Nuage.
Nuage. See, I knew
Right.
I was going to have a problem, but I have a problem speaking English half the time. So,
Well, that's technically not English, so you're okay.
okay, well, that's good then. So Scott does everything techie. That is what he does. He's been doing this for years, and if you're looking to switch within your company, I mean, now is the time. We're coming at a very crucial time in our lives, also regarding what's been going on in cyber. And so, Scott, maybe if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got going with all this.
Sure. So let's see. I've been in this world for over 25 years, I would say. So yes, I was around for the Y2K bug and all of that fun stuff. If you remember that, you're up there in age as well.
Yes, I do remember.
I initially had a company called Texas for a while, for I don't know, 7 or 8 years, and that was more on-site IT support. But the industry's changed, and actually, I was trying to change it while I was doing that. It didn't go so well back then. So now it's more of a remote model, and a lot of it automatic or automated. It could be automated. Some of it's automated. Some of it's we take care of it, and you don't even know we're taking care of it. But along with that change, that shift, came the whole cybersecurity piece. And so now we have to deal with all the cybersecurity, and along with the cybersecurity then came these people telling us how to take care of the cybersecurity. So that's the compliance piece. And you're in real estate, so I'm sure you get a bit of that, the compliance stuff. So we do all of that. So we do the day-to-day IT. My printer doesn't work, or I need a new monitor, or my computer doesn't turn on, those types of things. But we also do the cybersecurity, which is a huge chunk of what we do, and the compliance, so the HIPAA and the FTC regulations, and whoever else is. Connecticut has their own Privacy Act, so
Right.
a lot of that.
So for your clientele, you could work with somebody who like myself, who kind of just works for herself and has her own machines going off. Or you also work for the big doctor's office or the hospital or something like that.
Our smallest client is 1.
Yep.
And our largest client is 120. So yes.
Yeah. See?
Yep.
Okay.
We have a big spread there.
Yeah, no, it's good to know that. And so with the group for 120 or 75 or whatever number, so do you also provide their computers sometimes if need be, pending?
Yeah, sometimes we do. Nobody's said replace all my computers yet. Well, the one-man shops have.
Yeah.
But none of the bigger companies have said replace all of our computers. The one thing I will say is that we have about a year left, allegedly. Microsoft says Microsoft Windows 10 will no longer be supported next fall. So anybody who's using Windows 10, we are slowly starting to phase those out and replace them with Windows 11. But we're doing it in phases so that they're not overwhelmed buying computers, and we're not overwhelmed replacing computers.
Right.
So we're just getting ahead of the curve on that. And Microsoft usually extends those dates, so we'll see what happens.
Right. So let's hit that horrible thing with all these scams, this phishing, the cyber attacks. I mean, and it all happens on the internet. I mean, it happens on our phones. I mean, it's coming in everywhere. Do you want to touch on that? Why is this big rise and everything like that?
Well, it's mostly financially motivated. There's some people out there that are doing it just because they can and they want to prove they can, but most of it is financial motivation. So they are looking to take as much money and or data, because data is like gold on the internet, and they will sell that data. So most of the time what will happen is an attacker will get into an organization, steal the data, and then encrypt all of the computers, all the network, and say, give us, this amount of money in order for you to gain your computers again. And oh, by the way, if you don't, we're going to sell that data and we're going to expose that we have all that data to everybody else in the world. But it's all financial motivation.
Right. Yeah, that's crazy. I know, I seem to get emails that, this credit card system or something has been, or a college or somebody has had some sort of a problem. And
yeah, daily, there's somebody new every day.
Yeah. So how do you help like a realtor or somebody who's a electrician, I mean, how do you help them kind of keep everything private, or looking on the bigger side, how do you help all those, the big doctor's office or something like that?
So it's kind of a layered approach. So we use a model called Zero Trust, and it's sort of been around for a while in various forms. It's had different names, but now it's called Zero Trust. And what that essentially means is we don't trust anything until we can prove that we can verify that it's legitimate. So all of our clients, every last one of them, from the 120 to down to one, the CEO down to anybody who has computer access, have software on the computer to prevent applications and scripts and things like that from running. On top of that, we do a lot with phishing mitigation. So we do a lot to prevent you from clicking on a link that you shouldn't click on. As a matter of fact, as an example, I got last Tuesday, I got an alert at 6:30 at night that one of my clients clicked on a link, and I'm out, as you noted. I'm usually carting my kids around somewhere at that
I was
time
going
of
to
the day.
say you're a big soccer dad, and I don't know what
Soccer
else.
and baseball and cross country and dance.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So yeah, and actually Tuesday is one of the busiest days.
Busy day.
So I get the alert on my phone, and I text the guy that's a law firm. I text him and said, hey, I just got this alert, and it says you clicked on something, and he explained to me what was going on. He said he stopped once he realized it wasn't real. And the really scary part is that he thought it was coming from another attorney. So
Right.
This is what happens is they're gaining access to accounts that are not there. So I'll just use my business as an example. So they gained access to my business account, and then they're emailing other people from that account trying to gain access to those accounts.
Yeah.
And it just continues. It's a spiral. I have, my clients, if they're not sure, and I encourage this, my clients, if they're not sure, they will forward me an email and say, is this legit?
Yeah. Right.
And I will see that this is coming from a legitimate email, but their email was clearly compromised because the stuff they're sending you is not legitimate.
Right.
So most of the time, there are some numbers that say as high as 90%. That's how those attacks start. I don't think it's quite that high, but it's up there for sure. And it's all social engineering. So those things can happen via text message. They
Right.
can happen on phone calls now, and it's getting harder.
It's harder.
Because of artificial intelligence, it's becoming more of a challenge.
I find that myself, actually, just answering the telephone, because the phone rings, you got to answer the phone. But then I understand they're like, sometimes they record you and they're listening to you say hello, like, how does Jennifer speak? And then they can, duplicate that, which then turns it into a whole nother thing. So a lot of times if I think it's a little weird, I kind of wait, and you can kind of listen a little bit and you hear some hum or whatever. And then I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, I do exactly that if I answer. So if you call my cell phone and I don't recognize the number, it's more than likely going to go to voicemail, and even the voicemail is no longer my voice.
Yeah.
The office is a little more difficult to
Sure.
ignore phone calls, but yeah, the cell phone, if I don't recognize the numbers, I'm not picking up.
So what are like common threats or common scams? And sometimes I think they like target, it always seems that they target one person more than they do sometimes somebody else. Because even on Facebook, I mean, you see the same person always like having to change their passwords.
Yeah. Yeah. Facebook right now is a big challenge for people. But it's really the same across the board, whether it's Facebook or, cell phone calls or text messages. I get a lot of text scams. And I do record all of these, and I put them, well, not all of them, I record some of them and put them on social media so people can see, this is what it looks like, and this is why you shouldn't do it. And so that, education, I believe wholly in education as much as possible. So we train, we do hands-on training, we do in-person training, we do virtual trainings, and I also partner with a company that sends out trainings 3 times a month, and then there's an annual training and a few other trainings. But training and keeping that in front of, or if I see a trend, I will also alert all my clients, saying this is what's going on.
I've seen now that you've done that on your Facebook page. That's been good.
Yeah, and so the idea is, if people are aware, it's called security and awareness training. So if they're aware, that's the big piece of it. I would say right now, social engineering is a huge challenge. I mean, you could, especially now with the election, so you can see it even with the political stuff. A lot of that stuff is not real. A lot of it is artificial intelligence creating stuff, and of course, less than a month to our election, it's gonna ramp up even more.
Yeah, the dial is turning.
Right, exactly. So you have to take everything with a grain of salt. Everything. Like, if even a Yankee fan, I'm a Yankee fan. If I saw somebody post a score about a Yankee game, I'm going to go and verify it, because I don't know if it's accurate. If somebody's lying, I have no idea.
Right.
So yes, everything.
It does get scary, because I mean, this is where just really trying to educate people, no matter if they're young, they're, or your children, my kids, whatever, or older, grandma types, or grandma types can be at any age. So older than that, maybe my mom, she's 93. She's great going on. She scans on Facebook, and she's a great texter. But yes, she's getting all these different scams all these time. A lot of seniors that, they still have a phone, a landline. I mean, they're still getting all that information. But I guess a question for you. So, not everybody, they think of an IT techie person as kind of scary, number one, which Scott is not scary. But, they go to their Best Buy, they go to their Staples, they go to a place like that, and they purchase a computer of some sort, either a desktop or a laptop or iPad or Windows, whatever. But then sometimes they try to sell all these other things. Is it that costly to talk to a professional and help you out?
I can't put the
office. You know it's going to go on. See, Scott's very busy. I'm like, how do you stop your calls coming in?
Yeah, so that's happened too. I get calls from people, and they're like, "Hey, I just bought this laptop, and they gave me this service to add to it." And I'm like, "No, you don't need that service." Right. And it just happened recently with someone, and they bought this service I've never heard of before, and I can't even remember what the name of it is now. It was like CyberFox or something like that. And I said, "No, you don't need that." So first of all, I will say this: so we use for what you used to call antivirus or anti-malware. It's not called that anymore. Now it's called endpoint detection and response. So we use a company that a lot of it's automated, not everything. And so it will quarantine things that will say, all right, this doesn't look right. And then I would have to go and look at it and see if it's false positive, which means that it shouldn't have been quarantined. It's legitimate. We can let it through. Or it is really a problem. And that's one of the things we use. But if you just bought a Windows laptop or a Windows desktop from the store, assuming you bought Windows 10 or 11, you really can't get anything lower than 11 now. But if you did, it has Windows security built into it, Windows Defender built into it. And that's just as good as it's better than any free anti-malware you're going to get. If you want something more advanced than that, then you should. At this point, it's harder to get if you don't go through an IT provider.
Right.
The Symantec's, the Nortons of the world, and the McAfee's of the world, they're not that great anymore.
Right.
They were great in their time. They're not anymore. So you want something that's a little more advanced, that responds to things, and you don't have to update it in order to combat the threats. I don't remember the numbers now. There's something like 3,000 plus new threats every day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's an
Wow.
insane amount of stuff.
Wow. That's what
Um,
they can track.
right, and that's the other piece. So, and that's why when you hear, oh well, I'll just throw who's been recently breached. I think a town in Texas or Oklahoma or something got breached recently in the last few days. You only hear about the ones that are reported. Not everybody's reporting.
Right.
And they're supposed to. There's a requirement to report, but they're not all doing it.
Oh, that's good to know.
Yes, if you in Connecticut, I'm assuming a large portion of people that'll see this are in Connecticut because we're both in Connecticut.
Yes. Yeah.
Connecticut has the Connecticut Data Privacy Act, and you have to adhere to that. If you do business in Connecticut, there's some rules with that, but you have to adhere to that in Connecticut. And if you're breached, then you have to report it to the Connecticut Attorney General. And if you're in healthcare, then you have to adhere to a HIPAA. If you're in anything financial, then you have the FTC and maybe some other things. So there's a lot of rules that go along with what you need to do. And those rules, those compliance rules will say, well, you need to have endpoint detection and response, or I don't know exactly how they state it, but something like that. And so you have to go out and get that. You know, the IRS sent out every year, they send this out around tax season. They send out a note to all the tax preparers and all the accountants saying, you have to have multi-factor authentication on everything. You can't, if you don't have multi-factor authentication, you cannot operate. Does everybody do it? I don't know, but my clients that do taxes do it.
Right. Wow. Well, this is where our world, of course, keeps changing. And it's really cool listening to you and how your whole business is sort of changed. And matter if it was Norton years ago to what it is today. I mean, everything kind of keeps revolving. Do you have any tips for either realtors or just business owners of some sort, or just the average person like sitting at home? I mean,
so the easiest things you can do is have multi-factor or at least two-factor authentication on everything. So and I mean everything, Facebook included, your phone. I know that the people used to say, well, if you lock your phone, that means you're cheating and you don't want your spouse to see it. No, if you lock your phone, it means if somebody steals it, they can't get into. You think about what you have on your phone now. You have your bank accounts. You have your email.
What was that? What did you say? So if my phone's locked, I'm cheating?
That's what they used to believe. But
I never heard that one. That's a good one.
Yeah. So you have to, and I mean, in all honesty, if that's a concern, then you can absolutely. So my phone unlocks with my face. I can put a second face on there if I wanted to.
Right.
So you don't have to. You could still do things like that, or I also have a pin, a complex pin, by the way, but I have a pin on my phone that you can unlock. And now, if you have the most recent iOS update, iOS 18, you could also lock certain apps. So my email will only unlock with my face now. Do I like not being able to see what email I'm receiving in the notification? No, I don't like that, but I want my email to be secure.
Right.
So there's that. There's so turn on
cool. Never heard of that before. That's pretty good.
Yeah. To make sure your computers are always up to date. So your Windows updates, your like Zoom is another great example. Zoom constantly has updates, and it's a pain. Like you're getting ready to get on a Zoom and it says, hey, we have an update for you. Like I'm looking at my Chrome right now. I just got in the office and it says new Chrome available. So I have to reboot Chrome to do that. So when we're done, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
And it sucks because there's probably at least once a week that I have to do that for Chrome. But most of the time it's because some kind of security vulnerability.
Right.
So update it. Update whatever it is. Chrome, Microsoft Office, Microsoft Windows. If you're on Apple Mac OS needs updates all the time. iOS, and if you have an iPhone or if you have an Android, update that when it needs to be updated.
So just to interrupt. So when you're saying, Chrome or whatever provider has told you have an update, one of the big reasons probably to update is because it's actually, of course, fixing some issues, but it actually is probably protecting you more and more because it just keeps building a bigger not firewall, but a bigger screen in
It's
front of you.
addressing vulnerabilities. So they found it means that, and I don't know what this most recent update is. I'd have to look it up. But a lot of the times with like a Chrome update, it's addressing a vulnerability that's already being exploited by someone. So somebody out there, some of the bad guys are already out there. They found this hole and they're already trying to use it to attack people.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case for this one, but good chance it is.
Yeah.
And the Windows updates, the security updates, they always come out second Tuesday in a month, and a lot of the other vendors out there follow that same cadence. So they will also release their security updates on the second Tuesday of the month. So you update. Now, with a caveat, I always say wait a few days just to make sure, especially with Microsoft updates, because sometimes those updates break things. So usually we update all of our clients early Saturday morning. Once we've confirmed that nothing is going to break.
It's very cool listening to. I mean, you're so knowledgeable, and I can hear just through our conversation here your passion for what you do. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's just
it has to be a passion.
Yeah, and I think because it keeps changing, the thing is, what's nice is that you keep changing too. Instead of just trying to say, "Oh, well, we used to do it this way." That goes out the window, even as this morning sometimes.
Yep, very true. I mean, even for myself, I think education is the other big piece of it. So even myself, I listen to a podcast every morning. They release Monday through Friday every day with all of the different things that are going on in the cybersecurity world. It's a 8-10 minute podcast. It doesn't take up a lot of my time, but then now I'm caught up and I know what's going on and I know if there's anything you need to address immediately. So education is another big piece of it.
Right. And but it's very obvious that all your time that you put in that way has been great. So here's another question for you regarding passwords. So one of my passwords is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm only kidding.
I knew you were. I was going to say there is no way. No way.
It's a joke. No, but when you have a choice to either type in your own password, or you could get one that is generated for you, do you have a recommendation of what would be better?
So for me personally, I use a password manager that generates the passwords for me, and everything gets stored in there. And I only need to remember the one password to log into that password manager. If I forget that, I'm in big trouble.
Right.
But or if I lose it, because it also has two-factor authentication in the form of what's called a YubiKey. I have to touch a device in order to log into my password manager. NIST, which does a lot of the guidelines for different things in science and technology. That's actually what their name is, National Institute of Science and Technology, I think. But they do a lot with cybersecurity. So they just recently updated their password recommendations. And so what they've said is the longer the better, which again, I always go 20 or higher, but I always tell people at least 15 characters.
20 or higher.
Yeah, 20 or higher. Because there are applications out there that can crack passwords. They can brute force passwords. And the shorter your password is, each character adds significant amount of time to how long it can take to crack password. But I think if it's 8 or under, it can be done very quickly. So NIST says the longer the better. You can use password phrases. So let's say you have a movie quote you like. You could use that as a password, and maybe make some of the letters uppercase, maybe change an E to a 3, add Unicode characters, things like that, to make the password a little harder to crack. Now, eventually, when quantum computing comes out, which, depending on who you talk to, it could be next week, it could be 25 years from now. Right. That's going to go away. It's going to be easier to crack passwords.
Wow.
Now, that being said, there are groups out there already collecting what they call the hash of the password, with the intent of cracking these passwords when quantum computing comes out. So let's hope it's not for that reason. Let's hope it's not anytime soon.
It's kind of scary. I'm glad you the last part of your 91 cyber for your telephone number. That's huge.
I try to make it easy for people to remember.
Yeah, like me. Okay. So also I heard it's best not to click on things sometimes. That's another
If
way of
you
helping.
cannot, so what I typically tell clients is this: if you're expecting it and somebody sends you an email, so if you know you're supposed to get a document from a client and they sent it to you, then okay, that should be okay. But if you're not sure, then call them. Don't email them, because if somebody's in their email, they're going to see the email.
Right.
Call them or text them.
Right.
If you're not expecting it, I wouldn't open it. And again, you could call and check with the client. And I've had customers do that. I've had clients call the person who sent the email and they're like, no, I'm glad you called because our email was compromised.
Right. I mean,
And I've
it's
seen it. I can't even tell you how many times I've seen it just this year, like law firms and financial companies and just so many different companies that their emails, HR companies, their emails have been compromised, and the attackers are sending emails to everybody in the address book. And
right.
they're trying, because what they're trying to do is gain more access to more emails.
That's crazy. Really
Mhm.
crazy. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to ask you a couple quick questions, fire questions, and see how you do answering them.
Okay.
Okay. So here you go. It's either choose one or the other, texting or talking.
Texting.
Favorite day of the week?
Sunday.
Why Sunday?
For me, it's the slowest day of the week for work, and because everybody's home.
It's really cool because you're the second person that has said that in my live stream yard, so
Right.
which is wonderful. What on a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate yourself as a driver?
Me personally, I would say I'm a 10.
Yeah. Why
If
do
you
you
ask
do
other people, I have a lead foot. I will admit to that. Um,
it?
Hopefully, there are no cops watching.
Yeah. Oh, they've already met me. It's fine. So don't worry. Okay. Fill in the blank. Taylor Swift is,
My daughter's favorite artist.
there you go.
Yeah,
My
that's
daughter
good.
too.
Yeah.
What's your daughter's name?
Hannah is her first name.
Yep. Emma's my daughter's first name. Okay. Cake or pie?
Cake.
Um,
I don't know.
say,
Could be either one.
oh, could be either one. Yeah,
Yeah.
that wasn't the choice. You had one or the other. Okay. Say a word in Spanish.
Hola.
Hola. Everybody has the holas. Okay, here's a question. Is double dipping at a party ever acceptable?
No.
Oh God. Okay. I'm not gonna go to a party with you. Only kidding. Godfather or Star Wars?
That's a tough one. You're gonna have to go with Star Wars.
Okay. Did you ever go to sleepaway camp?
No.
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 Okay, now I'd like you to say good day, mate, in an Australian accent.
Oh boy. I didn't know I was gonna have to act today. Jeez. Good day, mate.
There you go. Yay, that was great. Scott, is there anything else? I mean, your telephone number's there. Is there anything else that maybe you could add to,
Yeah, you can go to the website. It's nwajtech.com. It's just like it's spelled there. I'm other than the scammers, I'll talk to anybody about anything related to cybersecurity and IT and compliance and all that fun stuff.
right.
Nobody likes compliance, but the other stuff we could talk about.
It's good. It's
Mhm.
really good. But I think what the value that you could bring to a company, again, matter if it's one or plus plus, I mean, is huge, really huge. So I just can't thank you enough for taking the time to meet with me today.
Thank you.
I'm glad my password isn't 12345.
The good news is a lot of systems won't even let you do that anymore, but there are
That's
still
correct.
some out there. There are still some out there. So
I figured that out when I typed it in. I'm only kidding. Okay, thank you so much, Scott.
you're
And
welcome.
anybody who's looking for any information regarding the tech industry, you know who you need to call. Scott's got it. He stays on top of the game, keeps his finger on the pulse. So please be in touch with him. Have a great day. Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you.